Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Emmanuel, and today we're going to be learning about UI testing. If you're completely new to testing in general, then maybe consider watching my previous video talking about unit testing, all right? And I'm going to leave a link in the description and the card right at the top, okay? And if you're new to the channel, then maybe consider subscribing because we learn some amazing concepts every week, right? At least we try to, all right? Okay, so moving to today's video, we're actually going to get started from a sort of like a starter project. Okay, so basically we have a simple noise makers list, and basically what this does is whenever someone makes noise in your class, then you can just go ahead and write their name down and submit. So when the teacher comes in, they get punished. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run this application just to show you what it looks like. And actually, the starter project is in a link in my GitHub. I'm going to leave a link directly to that, so you can just go ahead and download the project so you can get started right from here. But if you want to, if you feel like maybe developing your own application, then that's even better, right? So yeah, if you want to download the project, just check the description. So basically, this is what we have. So want to add a list of noisemakers, just click on this icon right here to add a new list, and we're presented with an alert dialog. Okay, so we have a title, a subtitle, and then a text field with two buttons. So it says, what's the name of the noisemaker? We have a placeholder, Shaggy, always making noise. So anyhow, you can just write the name of the person that's making noise. We can just say, for example, Eric Cartman. All right, then we click on add, and you see that it adds a new person to the list. We click again, we want to add a new person. We say, let's say Peter Griffin, and we click add. It adds another one. Let's add one more, the above them all, Shaggy. So yeah, it adds the new list. Then we can also do something. We can swipe and then click on delete, which also deletes someone. So let's say the person just begs and says, please don't report me, and then you just remove the person's name from the list. So this is a very simple application that we currently have. And again, if you want to download the starter project, just go over to the GitHub, the link here, and download it. Okay, so I'm just going to give a very quick run through of the code base currently. So you can see over here in our main.storyboard, we simply have a single view controller that's embedded in the navigation controller. We have a button here that's going to be used to add a new one, or basically the button that presents the dialog. Okay, so moving into our view controller, we have a couple of things. So just simple table view setup. And actually, if you've never worked with, or you don't really understand how table views work, I actually have a video explaining that. So maybe also consider checking that out. So I'm going to leave a link to that as well, and to the card, and the card at the top. Okay, so yeah, so basically what we have, whenever you click on the add button, we present an alert. The alert has like the title, the message, and it also has a text field right here with a placeholder. Okay, then apart from that, we also added two actions. The first action is our add button, and the second one is the cancel. So when you click on the cancel, it just dismisses the alert. But if you click on add, then we're going to check a couple of things. Make sure that there's a text field, make sure that there's a user text, and that user text is not empty. Then we just insert that particular name to our data source, and then we add a new row to our table view. So that's basically what is happening over here. Then yeah, the usual table view setup, the number of rows, we have the cells. Then at this point, we basically set up the swipe to delete. So when you try to delete, we remove the name from the data source, and then we also delete the row from the table view. Very simple, very basic, right? So what we're going to be doing in this video is to add testing to our application. So just like in our last video, if you want to add tests to your application, you just head over to, well, if it is a new project, while creating the project, you have an option to just check whether or not you want to include testing, right? But if it is an existing application, then you can just click on your target, and right here, just click on the plus icon. And here, since we're going to be doing UI testing, you just search for UI, and you can see UI testing bundle. So just click on that, click on next, and we can just go ahead and choose the default values, and then every other thing looks good. You just click on finish. Good. And this is going to create a new target for us. And if you look over here, you can see that now we have our test class, or our test target or bundle, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm actually just going to get rid of all of these things so that we can start start with a clean slate. All right. So we're going to be writing very basic tests, and actually in this video I'm going to test two main functionalities. All right. The first thing I want to test is that when you click on the add button, like the add button, then it presents a dialog and you enter a name. When you enter the name and click add, then it should add that value or that name to our table view. That's the first test we're going to do. Test to make sure that what's it called? A name is added to the list. Okay. Then the second test we're going to do is to make sure that a name is deleted when you click on the delete button. All right. So these are two basic tests that we're going to be writing in this video. So make sure to stick to the end. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all create a function, and we're going to say test add noise maker. All right, wonderful. So now this test is basically going to allow us to test that a name is added. All right. So for us to write tests, the first thing we want to do is we want to basically record our processes. All right. So I'm just going to show you what that means. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this record button right at the bottom. And now you're going to notice that it's going to launch our application. Okay. So basically what we're going to try to simulate over here is how to use the app to perform the particular feature that we want to test. So we want to test that when you add a new name, it adds it to the table view. So the first thing we want to do is click on this plus icon. So when we click on that, and you're going to notice that it is actually generating some code for us. All right, don't worry, we're going to see what that does or why we need that later on. So now we can see that it has launched the our input dialog. The next thing we want to do is, before you start typing, you want to click on this field, right? So you want to make sure that this guy is active. So we've done that, and just to bring up the keyboard, Command K, just to make sure that our keyboard is there if you want to bring that up. So now we know our input field is active. The next thing we want to do is, let's say Emmanuel is making noise. You can just write Emmanuel, and when we're done, we click on add. And when we click on add, we see that it's been added. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the field just so we get reference to this particular item in the table view. All right. So these are the various steps that we want to do to make sure, basically to test that a name is properly added to the list. All right. So now that we're done, we can just go ahead and click on the stop record button. Well, the same button, just click on it again, and it's just going to stop recording. So now looking over here, we have a couple of generated code, and don't worry, I have a few errors, and I believe this is probably because I had run this before just to make sure some things were working. So basically, well, you should have the correct one, but if you don't, what we want to do is we want to replace this with XCUI application. Then we're going to say app.launch. Okay, so basically what this is doing is it's going to create our app, and then it's going to launch the app. All right, so then apart from that, every other thing looks good. And don't worry, we're going to change all of these things. Well, we don't want to use app2, we just want to use a single app. So I'm just going to very quickly change those. All right, so yeah, yours should look something like this. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up this particular function just so that we can follow sort of like the order we had in the last video, where we have given, when, and then, right? So given certain input, when something happens, then we expect certain output. All right, so what we're going to do, so first of all, we know that we want to launch our application, right? Then apart from that, we want to basically get reference to the different views that we have, or the different views that are going to be part of our test case. Okay, so looking over here, the first one we have over here is our add button. So we want to basically get reference to our add button. or you could call it add new name button, well, whatever you want to call it. So that's just saying or let's just call it new button, or new name button be equal to this. All right, so this is going to be a reference to our add button, or the button that brings up the input dialog. All right, good. Now the next thing we're going to do is, looking over here, we can see that this excuse me, this is our text field. So we want to get reference to that as well. So I'm just going to click on this and highlight this particular guy. And right here, I'm going to say name field be equal to this. Okay, so this is going to give us a reference to our text field. All right, then now that we have that, the next thing we need reference to is our add button. So the button that actually adds it to the table view, which is this bad boy over here. So I'm just going to cut that out, and here we're going to say add button be equal to this. You can see that's actually pretty simple, right? So finally, we're going to select this guy, which is what we're going to be testing to make sure that because this is a cell that has been added to our table view. So we want to make sure that this exists, because if this does not exist, it means that that name was not added, right? So I'm just going to cut that out, and finally we're going to say let what do we call this, added cell be equal to this. Wonderful. So now we have access to all of the views that are basically going to be used within our test case. So next thing we need to do is to specify the actions, all right? So thinking about the flow again, when your app is launched, what's the next thing we want to do? We want to basically click on the new name button, right? The plus button at the top right corner of the screen. So how do we do that? We're just going to say new name button dot tap. All right, good. So now that we've tapped that, you could actually even test to make sure that the dialog is presented. So let's say, for example, you even had like a custom view or something where you accept input. You could write a test case to make sure that that particular view is on the screen, okay? But for now, we're just testing that it's added, right? So when it's presented, the next thing we want to do is we want to tap on our name field, okay? So just to make sure that that guy is active. So we're going to say name field dot tap. Sweet. So now we have tapped on the name field. The next thing we need to do is to add some text to our name field. So how do we do that? We're just going to say name field dot type and type text. So what text do we want to add? I'm just going to say Emmanuel. Okay. So now that we've added that, it's going to add this particular text, Emmanuel, to the list. And when we're done, the next thing we want to do is click on the add button, right? So, and while you're even doing this, you could actually do certain assertions. So for example, we could say that at the point where we've typed some text to the table view, the table view shouldn't have Emmanuel set in. But I'm going to show you what that is in just a slight bit, right? So we don't get confused. So let's continue. So now we've typed the name Emmanuel. The last thing we need to do, or the last action we need to do, is click on the add button. So how do we do that? We just have add button dot tap. So the idea is at this point, the moment you click on tap, then the name Emmanuel should be added to the list. So what do? We want to assert that this cell exists. Basically, that's basically what we want to do. So how do we do that assertion? You just write XCTest assert, and it's actually very similar to what we had in the last video. So, but this time we're going to be asserting true. So basically we want to assert that a particular condition results true. And what is the condition we want to check? We want to check that added cell dot exist. That's it. That's all that we want to do. So what we're going to do right now is let's actually test our test to make sure that it passes, because it should. So we click on display icon again, just like the last video. When you click on that, is going to build our application, and it's going to run the application like that automatically. So you can see I'm not typing anything, my hands are here, and you notice that it actually ran the app, and it basically simulated what we currently specified over here, right? Simple enough. So let's actually test some things that fail. So let's say that, for example, we go to our view controller, and in our add button, we don't modify our table view, all right? So we just do this like this. So now let's go back to our test. Ooh, what error do I have? Oh, no errors. So go back to our unit UI test, and I click on display, and this should actually fail because it didn't add the new name to our table view. So let me just run it again so you can see it being animated, or like animated over there. So it launches our application, it clicks on the plus button, it writes in a manual, it clicks on ads, but nothing happened. So it said, oh, the test failed. So yeah, this didn't exist here. That's why this particular test failed. So you can see how like UI testing is very important. So rather than having to manually run your app and then you're clicking to make sure that nothing has changed, and you're basically just going through the application one step at a time, this basically automates everything for you. So you can just run the test, and the system is just going to be performing all these actions like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the view controller, and we're going to set the correct code back, because I want to show you what I was referring to by asserting while you are performing an action, right? So here, this is the final result. We want to make sure that when you click on the add button, the cell is added to the table view. That's good. Let's run it again to get rid of all the reds, right? So this works. It works very well. But another thing we can do is to add different assertions while we are performing our operation. So basically what I'm saying is, if you look over here, when you write in type Emmanuel, it is possible for us to basically add, because imagine if in our view controller we weren't adding the name when you click on the add button, but we were adding the name while you type so maybe as a delegate in your text field. So as you're typing, it's adding it to the table view. That's not the desired action that we want. So in that case, you want to make sure that your test as well also only adds a name to the table view when the add button is clicked. So the add button is clicked at this point. So what we want to do is, just before the add button is clicked, we want to assert that this added cell does not exist. All right, that's what we want to make sure. We want to make sure that before the add button is tapped, Emmanuel does not exist in the table view. Okay. So how do we do that? Very similar to what we currently have. We're just going to say XCT assert, and this time, my spelling, we're going to be asserting false. So we want to make sure that it is not in the table view, right? So that's why we're doing false. So basically, we're going to be asserting the same thing. So we're asserting that added cell exists not. So make sure that the added cell does not exist precisely. So it's going to assert this here. And when it is done doing this, then it is going to tap the add button, and then it's going to check again. So meaning that this particular action actually was the action that added it to the table view. So now we can still go ahead and run the application, and we should still get the same output. The test should still pass. But the difference now is, if for any reason your table view is updated before the before the add button is clicked, then it's going to fail. So let's even try and simulate that. Let's go over to the view controller, and in our view controller, what we're going to do here is, the moment you click on the add button, we are going to manually add Emmanuel to the field. All right, so let's do that. Let's just say, and actually let me just copy this, and so here I'm just going to pass in Emmanuel. All right, so basically Yeah, now we can go ahead and run this test again. Awesome. And you can see that it actually failed over here. So, oh shoot, I should have actually run it and shown you. So let's look at this. So I'm running the application, and the moment the plus button is clicked, it already added a manual. Before, so when it added a manual, it then clicked on, before it clicked on the add button, it did the test, this one right here, and it saw that it was already added and it just failed. So yeah, this is one of the things that is actually helpful to note. While you are performing different actions, you could actually do assertions through your processes to make sure that certain actions are not happening when they should not be happening. All right, so I'm just gonna go back here and I'm gonna get rid of this guy again. So this card, and let's go back to our UI testing, and we can click the play button again to make sure that everything is working smoothly. Okay, plus button clicked, Emmanuel, add. Perfect. Greens. Good. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna basically do the same thing, all right? But this time we want to test that when you swipe to delete, then like the value is actually removed from the table view. All right, that's what we're gonna be testing now. So what we're gonna do is, and actually the processes are quite similar to this. So you're gonna see me copying some code, but don't worry. You could go ahead and click on the play. In fact, I think we should do that. So yeah, here we're going to create a new test, and here we want to test delete noisemaker. Okay, good. So in this function, we're going to basically delete what's it called? A noisemaker, as I said. So how do we do that again? You just go ahead, click on the record button. So basically what this does is it allows us to be able to record activities on your screen or your simulator, and basically generates code that references the actions and the views that are on your app. Okay, so again, let's try to simulate the delete. So we click on the plus icon. Again, this guy is up. We click on our name, make sure that we are active there. Then we just go ahead and this time let's write Victor, another very dangerous noisemaker with Shaggy. So we write his name over there, and then we click on add. Good. So now we have Victor added to the list. What we actually want to do in this test case is we want to swipe like this, right? So you can notice that swipe has been implemented over here, and then we want to delete. Okay? So this is the action we're going to perform, and the result is that the table view shouldn't have what's it called? Shouldn't have Victor on the list. So you can click on this just to get reference to the table view. So now we're done. We've generated our code. We can go ahead and click on our stop record button, and now it's time to clean things up. I'm actually not sure why this guy is generating app2 like this, but anyhow, we know how to fix that. Just write XCode UI application, and then we just say app.launch. Good. So these is the first thing we want to do, launch our application. Okay, cool. Now the next thing we're going to do is we basically again want to get reference to the different views and basically the different views and controls that we're going to be using in the application. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, or we could just copy this since it's basically the same thing that we have right here. So we'll just go ahead and paste this, but we can confirm. So this is our add button. You can see noise makers and ads. So this one is gotten for our new name. Then the next one is the add noise maker scroll element, and this is getting like the text fields as we have over here. So this is the name field. We can get rid of that. Then right here we have like the add button tapped. Cool. We have that over here already. You can just remove that. Then over here we have access to our table. So here I'm just going to say app.tables. So this is basically our table. So yeah, we could actually just leave this guy. So we're going to take this to the top like this. Cool. Then here, this is an action that's being performed. So we're just going to take this guy down. So yeah, these are basically the actions that are going to be performed on our table view. So this is, as you see, like we did over here, the second. So these are the actions. These are the second category of our test case. Okay, so what actions do we want to perform? We basically want to perform the same actions that we did right here. Okay, so but let's go ahead and type them so we're not just lazy. So the first thing, again, remember, want to click on the plus button at the top. So what's the plus button? That's new name button, and we're just going to call the tap. So when we click on the plus button, next thing we want to click on our text field, so just say name field dot tap. Cool. Then now we want to set the text of the name field. So I'm just going to say name field dot type. So we're going to be typing this time. Let's add Victor. And cool. So now we've added Victor to the list. Now we want to click on the add button. So name field, not that. We want to click on add button. So add button dot tap. So this flow is basically going to add the name Victor to the table view. Okay. So now that we've added the name, what we want to do is we want to delete, right? We want to delete Victor from the list. So how do we do that? We have access to our table view, right? And this is our access to the Victor itself. So we could actually just remove this, or, well, you can see a mistake that we would have made, because here we're adding Victor. So this should be Victor, not Emmanuel. So this is our added cell. So we can simply replace this with our added cell dot swipe left. So this is, again, remember, this creates a reference to the cell that was just created. So here we're saying that cell that was just created, swipe it left. So when you swipe it left, we should see the delete button, right? So now that we have the delete button, we want to tap on the delete, right? So when we tap on the delete, then we're going to remove it from the list. So then again, we can actually move this guy into a variable right here. So we can say let delete button be equal to this. Okay. So yeah, okay, this is table queries, so it's needed. So we're just gonna move this guy down, so like from the table view, right? So that's good. So again, now we have swiped, and don't worry, I'm gonna go through this again. So I hope not a lot is going on very quickly, but don't worry, I'm gonna go over it again. So here we've swiped the cell. Next, we want to say delete button dot tap. So this is going to basically tap the delete button for that particular cell that we just created. So when this is tapped, what we want to do is we want to basically assert that Victor, which is this guy, the added cell, does not exist. All right. So we actually don't need this anymore. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say XCT assert. Could you guess how we will do that? Assert false. Awesome. So we're going to assert that the added cell dot exist. Okay. So this is going to check that added cell, which is Victor, does not exist in our table view. And if it does exist, then something is wrong. But if it doesn't exist, then yeah, we've done the right thing. So now we can go ahead and click on this plus button and run this specific test case. So let's see what this is going to look like. So the app is launched, the plus button is clicked, Victor is added in the list, click, swipe, delete, delete, ooh, everything passed. Awesome. So now just to make sure that the test is actually working, just trying to test our test, let's go over to the delete functionality. And here, let's say we remove this and we don't remove it. I don't even know if it's going to cause a crash. Or anyhow, let's just say let's say we add this to the name, but we don't like remove it from the table view. So let's go to our test again, and we're going to click on the play button, and I see what we have. So plus button clicked, Victor adds, Victor delete. Ooh. So we swiped, but it deleted it from the data source, but it didn't update the UI. So let's say, for example, someone forgot to do maybe table view reload or delete. So yeah, you can see that the test actually caught that, and it sees that this still exists in the view. So hey man, check your code. So yeah, this is good, and you can see how like very helpful that writing test can be, and it basically just automates your work. You don't have to constantly test different features of your application. I've actually even had an experience where a particular feature was unconsciously changed while working on the project. So this would have been a very solid solution or preventive measure to that particular issue. So yeah, just play around with tests, play around with different things. You could actually test the cancel button. So when you click on cancel, you want to make sure that that dialog was actually dismissed. So we don't want the cancel button to not do anything. So these are tests that you can do to just make sure that your UI is responding appropriately. So I hate seeing the reds. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the overall play button so it runs both of the tests, and let's just watch it do the magic. So the first test is going to test to add. Click on the add button, write my name, add. Good. Now the second one goes over, it says add Victor, add, swipe, delete. All right, it went. Awesome. So all tests pass. Voila. Good. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, then again, go ahead, click on the subscribe button. And I try as much as possible to release videos every week. So, you know, turning on your notification can be really helpful to you. So that you get notified immediately I release a new video. Also, look out for our next video where we're going to be learning about snapshot testing. All right. So that's like, you're going to compare different snapshots. So anyhow, just stay tuned. If you have questions, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I definitely try as much as possible to respond as soon as possible. All right. And until then, have an amazing week. Bye, guys.